Welcome to the Creator Studio. This is your reading for whatever date you decide to open it. Water and the Emotion Fairy. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. And the Novice. I will post an image of these cards so that you can look closer into them and see what is down for you. And then I kept pulling cards because I have a lot of fun when I energy activate my cards and they want to keep talking. And I'm like, no, I'm only doing a 3-card spread. And then they're like, no, 2 more. And which kind of threw the reading off, if I'm honest. But I'm going to talk about these ones. So the Water Fairy, and I'm not going to talk about this as a timeline because I feel like there's so much wisdom in this card spread that it will be relevant for any time it shows up for you. So this will be posted on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be winding down YouTube, or winding down Beyond Senses, and you'll be able to subscribe to my YouTube channel for readings and impromptu messages that are random, imperfect, and probably unstructured. Just an FYI. Possibly there'll be structure at some point, but not today, not tomorrow. So time is funny. The Water Fairy is such a gorgeous fairy because the teaching of the water is a very strong and abundant and wise teaching. Months ago, I was like, I'm going to embody the teaching of the river. And I consciously did that and just like drove into the currents and the eddies and the emotions. And so as you've followed me, if you have, that has actually been something that has been prominent for you as well, possibly working through the emotions. I have chatted with a lot of women that are just exhausted, like literally, like friends, and there's a sense of like, I am exhausted, and because there's been an accumulation of a lot of stuff going on that has been either painful or emotional or trying, and so the emotions are so part of us, obviously. Delving into the feelings, which is so funny because those of you that are intuitives, or psychics or readers or deep feelers, I joke often that that can feel like a blessing and a curse, or a shadow and a positive dynamic, or a contrast. And there's truth to that because we are here in contrast. So the emotional Water Fairy is really about, she's quite, if you look at this, she's quite protected, and she's got a bit of her backup, meaning she's maybe been having to watch things or have a boundary or be aware of what's behind her shoulder. Sometimes, and this is what I'm being shown, is this belief around psychic attack, and I could do a whole, and will do a whole video on that around psychic attack, because there's a lot of beliefs around that are quite fear-based with good reason, and that's come up with a couple clients this week. Is there terrible energy being sent at me? Is there black magic being sent at me? And I want to just say very quickly that as a feeler, you're going to feel so much, and part of that is learning to really take responsibility for what's yours and what your own inner body is showing you, and also being able to perceive what is not yours, or if somebody out externally is not thrilled about who you are or what you're doing or what you're saying or anything. And if you feel that there's negative energy being put on you consciously, the power that you give that is what's going to ultimately affect your reality. So those of us that have had practice with that, it is important to have protection, and there used to be times where I would psychically protect myself consciously, and then I just got freaking tired, and I was like, whatever, I'm always the one doing the forgiving, I'm always the one doing the protecting and the clearing and the shielding and the blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to do that anymore because it doesn't work anyways. And we could talk about how that went for me if you want, but we don't have that much time, and we don't need to live there anymore. So I want to say that it is important that you do whatever you do that helps you. Definitely I teach that after you work deeply with a client, because we connect so powerfully with other people, and we really do need to feel them. That is the blessing of being a feeler, that if you've turned down your feels because you wanted to spiritually bypass, and in truth that is what is your gift, is being able to feel people, then you don't want to turn that down. But by all means, when you're working with heavy stuff with clients, you need to be able to like kind of give them back their energy as transformed, of course, and then leave the rest at the door, and like go eat meatloaf or whatever it is, pierogies that you want, or a lollipop, and go back into your life. And when you feel or that you're thinking about people or they're targeting you, and when I say targeting, if you're a psychic or you're doing readings on people, you will often like attract friendships or people or relationships that think it's okay to just like bombard you with messages. And imagine you had 100 clients that were like consistently asking you questions or pulling into your vibe to get clarity or answers. Like, that's not fair to you. So there is a need to sometimes psychically protect or lovingly state your boundary with people because they mean well, but to also release the responsibility or burden that you might be in a habit of with them. I think that might cover in a nutshell the energy of the water fairy, but I want to also go back to, like, if you think about a river, there's all this beautiful flow of downstream. But if you think about the chaos that can happen in a river and the damming and the eddies where you get stuck and the like, oh my God, I'm under a rock and I can't even breathe right now, pop back up, float back down. It is not like this perfect, like me, I like a pool or a really calm ocean where I can just float. And I will teach you that in my tropical retreats. We actually will float. We will learn to float because there's something that happens in the water where you have to surrender and give in, relax your muscles, and let the water support you. If you are a good floater, you will know that. And if you're not, you might not have enough body fat on you, but we will work through that as well because it's a good practice. So with all of the emotions and with all of what might be or feel like psychic attack or really dark or discordant energies that you worked with or felt or embodied, and whatever is that theme for you, after the grit, always the pearl. Layers of annoyance, layers of working, layers of shining, layers of doing that all over again, and just growing broader and wider. There's always room for forgiveness. Now, this is such an overused word in the spiritual community, and it is important, but it's a grit to pearl process. We always will have opportunities to forgive ourselves, our cast of characters in our lives, all the people that have influenced us in a positive, negative way. And we often focus on the way that we believe people have negatively influenced us. Where we take responsibility is that I set myself up for this. Whatever it is that I called in on any level in the physical world was for a reason. And I don't want to throw around that like everything happens for a reason. But when you can go there mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like, what is this moment? Or what is this person here to teach me? The minute that you get that lesson, and I say the minute because sometimes it takes us many minutes or many lifetimes, is when you can ultimately forgive. And first yourself, then others. But that is not ever to be forced or ever to be, I've actually had that again this week. I need to forgive. And it's like, you're not even close to having forgiveness, and you don't need to forgive. You need to set a boundary with this person so that they're not going to keep doing the same thing for you, and only you know what that boundary is, and they're probably not going to honor that boundary because it's about you making flexibility within that boundary with what's okay and what's not okay. And if it's not ultimately okay, you need to do that work, and that is some uncomfortable shit if you're not used to doing that, because the novice is in the house. So you might be really great at some things and super wise in certain things. And really, wisdom is a funny word. And like, the humble seer really knows she's not wise, even though she talks wisely. I'm a beginner. I could die tomorrow, and all the readings I've ever given and all the stuff I've seen in people could totally be bullshit when we're dead. And I tell people that with humor. That's a fun one to go into. But the novice is really about innocence. It's about, I don't actually know everything. There's always going to be a level of ignorance because there's always someone else's side or someone else's story that you might not be able to look at. That's part of forgiveness. Everybody has their own story, their own capability, their own idea of what is right and what is wrong. And so we can't all be eye to eye. It's funny, they're telling me to look at this, which I haven't looked at the novice card for so long. Oh, they're showing me practice and new skill. And that's interesting because when there's unstable curiosity, it's a sense of, and that this again could be a whole like talk right here, is when there's uncertainty or instability, how can we approach it with curiosity by learning something new? If you're not generally forgiving, That might be your novice in forgiveness, and you need to learn about what that feels and looks like to you. When you're a novice at anything, if you've never written a book, you might be terrified to do that because you don't know what that looks like. Talk to people that are writers. Get curious with a course online, or hire a publishing company. What does that mean for you? If you've never danced on a stage, you should probably try it. And when they're saying law of least effort, this one is about, give me an example. Okay, they're calling in a reading that just happened. A woman that is working on being seen and heard in the world and being acknowledged more for her work that she does, was like, I just don't know how to do that. And yes, we talked about the emotional and the psychological and her spiritual, truth of her purpose. But what I was guided to share with her was like, I see that you need to do something creative. So it looked to me like a flamenco dancer. Get out and do something fun and enjoyable that you've not done before. Put yourself on the stage in a way that's uncomfortable so that you can choreograph your new being seen. So whether that be you're showing up on a stage in front of an audience, that's gonna provoke, that's gonna open up, not just in the creative physical world, but in your actual workforce. That same energy is going to support you. So try acting, or comedy, or something out of your norm that's going to break you out of that like patterned sense of emotion. That's going to help you if you're a novice in anything. So it's going to help you break out of the comfort zone. The bonus cards in this one were hilarious because I kept pulling, and what I got was a wasp and death. And I was like, why did I pull 2 more cards? Like, I could have just ended it at the novice. But there was such a momentum to this particular deck today. And the death and the wasp are, again, a reiteration of the wasp can definitely be icky energies around you, like surrounding you in any way. Who cares? Like, and I don't mean who cares in the sense of like, I don't give a shit. It's being carefree. That if somebody doesn't like what you're saying or doing, it's not your business. I was listening to, who was I listening to the other day? One of my faves. I think it was Brene Brown. I don't always listen to a lot of other people because I kind of like to channel what I'm here to channel, but it's helpful sometimes. And I was guided to listen to her. And she talked about how when she went kind of viral from her one TED Talk, she got a lot of negative comments all across social media. And she never planned to be like a speaker. She just ended up kind of being put on the stage and then getting a crazy amount of really good energy and great feedback, and look at where she is now. But her husband said, don't go online and don't look at all this shit people are saying about you. And of course she did, because that's human nature. And then she focused on that. And I've been there before too. And it's a deep practice to be able to be like, I don't care. Like, if you don't like what I'm doing or what I'm saying or who I am in the world, the hardest thing is to be authentically you in the world. And it's also the easiest thing, because you're not faking it. You're not putting on a facade. You're not lying to anybody. You're not trying to be somebody else. You're just like, yeah, I drink wine and I drink tequila and I'm a spiritual person. I don't need to live up to this ideology of what that looks like. People might think that I have like long parted in the middle hair and never wear makeup and wear flowy skirts and smell like patchouli. And I'm like, no, that's actually not me, but I have a very strong spiritual heart and mind, and you probably do too. And that can come in many packages. So with the death card and the bee energy, it's about giving death to being curious about what this novice wants to see and learn, and not knowing that you don't know everything, but also giving death to the parts of you that aren't working anymore by means of shining your light no matter what. If you are susceptible to psychic energies or attacks, really see what that means for you. Do you need more psychic protection? What does that mean for you specifically? Or do you just need to do some work in there? If there's a wasp, a lot of times there can be like a hive or a tribe or a group of women or men or family members that are actually talking about you behind your back. And I'm just going to very quickly talk about that. And then at 15 minutes, I'm going to stop this, or slightly over. I always know if people are talking about me, it sucks. I'm not going to lie. I know when there's a conversation held about me a lot of the time. And what I have learned on the spiritual levels of various channels, right? I can tap into anybody's high self. Wayne Dyer, I used to talk to his high self. Abraham, I talk to them. When you come for a session, I talk to your high self. In the truth, we're all one, but we have imprints and blah, 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 blah. Long story short, if you want to tune into the channel of someone talking about you and you feel that maybe they should be supporting you instead of talking about you, you can tune into that channel and you can stay there. Or you can flip the channel up and go higher. And that's always an option, that we have different channels of wisdom, information, knowledge, truth, and we can always flip the channel. If you're down here right now, you might need to be there for a little while, get what you need from that channel, and then turn up the crank and volume, okay? I will teach you how to do that if you want to come to one of my classes or work with me in person for a full day or book a private retreat with me for a full day. I am phasing out one-on-one sessions, so if you want to work with me at one-on-one for an hour or two, I would get that in now. And I just want to tell you I love you and you're amazing and awesome. Bye.